nuclear talks are underway in the Austrian capital, Vienna, between Iran and the P5+1 group as a deadline for sealing a comprehensive final deal looms. Negotiators from both sides are working hard to write down the details of a final pact before June 30th. The Iranian Foreign Minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, and the U.S. Secretary of State, John Kerry, along with their associates, are now meeting behind closed doors. The lifting of anti-Iran sanctions and the inspection of the country's military bases appear to be major unresolved issues, causing the process to move forward slowly. Iran and the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council plus Germany reached an understanding for a possible nuclear accord in Lausanne in April. Correspondent Homaletsky from Vienna joins us to update us more about the situation there. Well, Homaletsky, last time I talked to you, I came out of that interview with you more confused than ever based on some of the things that have happened. Maybe you can shed more light about some of the things that you said and, of course, any new developments.
Right, Kaveh, I'll start by saying that right now we're standing outside the Hotel Coburg in Vienna and we're waiting for the arrival of the EU High Representative for Foreign Policy Chief, Ms. Federica Mogherini. She's going to join the negotiations today. At the same time, talks have resumed between Foreign Minister Zarif and US Secretary of State John Kerry. Both the deputies and the experts from the team are also, from both teams basically, are also taking part in those discussions. Now, the thing is, the sides, you say that you mentioned confusion. The sides' plan is to reach an agreement by the June 30th deadline. That is a self-imposed deadline. They have said, as one source was putting it, once that deadline approaches and once we are on the day of the 30th of June, we're going to theoretically or figuratively speaking, stop the clock, and then we're going to move from then on, maybe for a couple of days, maybe even up to 10 days, etc., as long as it takes, as long as it's necessary, basically, to come up with a joint comprehensive plan of action. Now, we're hearing that the main text, as I told you before, is around 20 pages, probably. Then the annexes were between 4 to 5 annexes are being discussed. They overall are 60 pages. A lot of technical and legal details being discussed between the sides. We're going to have the foreign ministers of the European countries also joining today and discussing those aspects. One issue that's still causing differences is the issue of sanctions removal. The legal aspects of that, the issue of simultaneity is still a problem because when a comprehensive plan of action based on the Lausanne framework is put in place, both sides would want to take simultaneous action because of the lack of trust that exists between them, meaning that Iran says it wants the sanctions to be removed and then it can implement its measures which would limit the scope and capacity of certain aspects of its nuclear program, including enrichment, of course, and all we know about the Lausanne framework. And at the same time, the other side is saying it wants Iran to make that move and that move to be verified before it can effectively have the sanctions removed. This is a process that's still being discussed. And right now, as we speak, the Iranian and US team are talking about that. There's also a lot of talk concerning research and development. I'm hearing from some sources that it looks like the other side has been backtracking even when it comes to research and development. Iran insisting that it wants to continue research on advanced centrifuges, IR 4, 5, 6, and 8, if I'm not mistaken. This is something that the sides have to come to some kind of compromise on, among other issues, for instance, including the issue of Fordo. The Fordo enrichment plant, according to the Lausanne framework, is going to be converted into, is going to be rather restructured into a nuclear research facility, but Iran is going to keep 1,000 centrifuges in there, and according to some sources inside Iran, we heard that 350 of those centrifuges will be spinning to produce medical isotopes, etc. This is something that the sources say Iran wants in case there is a violation. There's also talk of how the issue of violation is going to be addressed. Will the sanctions be reversed automatically? Will Iran basically reactivate these 1,000 centrifuges? These are issues that are being discussed among other topics.
Okay, and quickly before I let you go, so we're looking at about 48 hours or a little less. Will you be getting an idea about whether the 30th there will be an announcement or not in the next, I don't know, today or tomorrow? Is that the general feel that you're getting, or are we going to wait until the last second?
Yes, well, I'd just like to reiterate here again that we're probably not going to see a signing taking place. This is the plan of action we're hearing. It's not an international treaty or agreement. If there is a fruitful conclusion to these talks, we'll have the sides make an announcement that they have reached an agreement and they're going to start implementing. That would, of course, need the US Congress's review and approval for it. Basically, the Congress saying no or yes to this, and then President Obama vetoing this or not. You know, all that process has to pass. That will take at the most, I think, 30 to 60 days. So we've got that process, but we also have, if an agreement is made, the adoption of a new UN Security Council resolution, which would annul the previous resolutions against Iran and which would reaffirm the agreement being made here. If the agreement or conclusion is made on the 30th, which is, of course, the intention of the parties, yes, what they want, as both sides have confirmed, we're going to see that announcement, yes, on the 30th of June. But everything is being delayed until the very last moment. Nothing can be predicted at this stage. We might hear them, for instance, on that day say that we need a couple more days. You know, we have to wait and see if once all of them are here, once all the foreign ministers are here, this can be achieved.
Very well. Thank you very much for that. Homa Lesky there, our correspondent, talking to us from Vienna. Thanks, Homa.